You're listening to the Membership Site Success Podcast, where you learn from successful entrepreneurs how to build and run a profitable membership site so that you too can generate recurring revenue for your business month after month. And now, here's your host, membership site expert, Vic Dorfman.
On today's episode of the Membership Site Success Podcast, a guest. That was my Christopher Walken impression. Let's try that again. On today's episode of the Membership Site Success Podcast, our guest is Brian Casel. And Brian runs CastJam.com, which is his main blog. But actually before that, he was running, or concurrently with that, I should say, he was running Restaurant Engine, which was his productized service that he built up and sold. And Brian also offers a course called Productized, and it's all about how to sort of take your freelancing, take your service or business, and turn it into a productized service or productized consulting arrangement, where you sort of break the feast and famine cycle of consulting and looking for new gigs all the time, and you turn it into a recurring, predictable recurring revenue stream. And this has been a huge game changer in my business, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have Brian on. Brian also talks in this episode about his new project called Audience Ops, audienceops.com, which is another productized service, surprise, surprise, that is an end-to-end content marketing service. So Brian has a lot of really awesome things to share. He's also a nomad currently traveling around the US with his family. So he has some really cool insights into business and into life. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode, so stay tuned. Brian, welcome. The first question that I want to ask you, this is the first question I ask all my guests, is how did you get into online entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship in general?
Yeah, Vic, thanks for having me on. That's a good question. I'm not even really sure because I don't even know when the point was that I started thinking of myself as an entrepreneur. And it's one of those weird things where, like, I look back on my life and when I was younger, even when I was a kid, and I did kind of entrepreneurial things back then. Like, you know, I would like trade baseball cards and, you know, sell lemonade on the street and things like that.
You actually did that?
Yeah, I actually did. I think the revenue numbers on that were, you know, 80 to 90 cents on the day or something. You know, but you know, I mean, later on, I started out as a web designer, and I worked at a web design agency for a couple of years, and then after that, I left the agency to become a freelance web designer. And I guess technically, you can say that's the beginning of the entrepreneurial thing, but at the time I really just thought of myself as a freelancer, just doing work, you know, like project by project for clients, you know, designing and developing websites. And I did that for several years. And then a few years later, probably as we got into 2009, 2010, I started transitioning into products. And that's probably around the time that I would start to consider myself more of an entrepreneur, because I'm not just working with clients anymore. I'm actually working on learning and figuring out how to launch and market and sell digital products, and productized services, which I got into a little bit later. So, yeah, I'd say around 2009, 2010 was when I started really tuning into marketing related podcasts and books, and thinking more and more about products and how things can become more scalable and growing a team. Like, that's, you know, after a few years of working with clients as a freelancer, I started moving in that direction. So
that's interesting. Yeah. So you first started doing like digital products, right?
Yeah, the first product business that I started was a WordPress themes shop called Theme Jam, and basically, you know, set up a website. This was back in 2009 when I wasn't certainly not the first player in this business. It was already starting to get pretty crowded, but it wasn't like it was today.
Yeah.
But I was selling WordPress themes, and I actually still, to this day, that site still exists and kind of runs in maintenance mode. But I was selling WordPress themes for like $59 each, and then soon after that, I created like a specialty WordPress theme for creating project proposals on WordPress, and that was called WP Bids. And again, that still exists today. And because that was kind of scratching my own itch. I was a freelancer sending a lot of proposals to clients, and I wanted a way to create professional looking proposals. And I'm a WordPress guy, so I wanted to be able to design them on my own WordPress site and host them on my own domain and things. And so I created a theme for that for myself to use, and then I sold that as a digital download product. So that was the first thing, and then ventured into a bunch of different things along the way. But the next big chapter in the entrepreneurial timeline for me was launching Restaurant Engine, which was a hosted web design service built on top of WordPress, selling websites to restaurants. And I worked on that for about 4 years and grew it. And this year in 2015, I just sold it. So that was about four months ago now. So I exited that business, and then around the time I left that, I started up a new business, my current business, called Audience Ops, which is a productized service business where it's a done-for-you blogging service and content marketing service for B2B software companies, and that's been going pretty well. And so we do the done-for-you service where we're blogging, like publishing to their blogs and writing and sending their email newsletters and doing that whole, basically managing that whole process. But we're also creating our own plugins that we use for our clients, but then we're releasing those as tools as well. So
like the content upgrade plugin that you're releasing, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so content upgrades is the first one of those that we're releasing. Basically, it's a little plugin that works in WordPress, and it lets you add an email opt-in to an individual blog post. And you can do this on many different blog posts and offer an incentive for a person to opt in. So you can create like a piece of bonus content to go along with a particular blog post. And we've seen that when it's specifically tied to a blog post, and here's like an extra checklist or template or something to go along with that has a very high conversion rate because it's very relevant to the same topic.
Yeah, definitely.
So like we do that process for our clients, but we're releasing the tool for others to use it as well.
Okay, so I want to talk about Audience Ops, but I want to back up real quick to Restaurant Engine, because you got into you started touching on content marketing. How important has content marketing been in the Restaurant Engine business? And I ask specifically because that brand is separate from your blogger persona, right? The casjam.com. And I guess you ran those kind of in tandem? Like you were blogging at the same time?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I kind of left that piece out a little bit, but it's been very significant for me over the last few years as well. So while I go from like business to business over a number of years, the constant for me has always been my personal blog, casjam.com, where I try to write and teach about the things that I'm working on. And I also co-host a podcast called Bootstrapped Web with my friend Jordan Gal, and every week we get on and talk about what we're working on in our business. So through that side of things, through casjam.com, a year ago I launched a course called Productize, all about building a productized service, which is pretty much what I did with Restaurant Engine and what I'm doing again with Audience Ops. And so over time, I've built up an audience on that site through my personal newsletter, where I talk about entrepreneurship. I talk a lot about productized services, and just share some of the strategies and tactics that I've used and things that I'm learning by doing, pretty much.
So then with Restaurant Engine, can you talk about your content marketing strategy, if you had one, or how did you acquire clients, and how did you sort of educate your prospects and get into that industry?
Yeah, I mean, content marketing has been huge for me for a long time. I mean, starting with my personal blog, I've been able to build up a significant audience there that helped me then release products like the Productized course. But then when I started working with Restaurant Engine, when I launched Restaurant Engine, I knew that content marketing was kind of like my go-to marketing strategy. I mean, that's really the only strategy that I ever really had a good handle on like how to do it effectively. So I implemented it in Restaurant Engine, but the difference was, with my personal blog, I'm the one doing all the writing, and I want it that way. Like I don't outsource anything on CastJam. That's all me because I enjoy that part of it. But with Restaurant Engine, I wrote a couple of the posts in the very beginning, but very, very quickly, very soon into it, I hired other writers and I built out very specific guidelines and systems and processes for them to carry out the weekly blogging routine. For everything from them coming up with topics, and we had a whole process for that, to how they draft articles and what goes into every article, and then someone else on my team lines it up in WordPress and publishes it, and then writes and queues up the email newsletter that goes out, queues up social media posts that go out, and all that is done automatically, and it ran like that for years on Restaurant Engine, and now the new owner is still running with it, and that strategy has paid off over time, because number one, it helped our search engine rankings. We ranked pretty high on the front page of Google for all the relevant key terms. We built up a pretty good email list of restaurant owners that way, and we had some email marketing sequences and things that helped bring that audience into requesting a consultation and bringing them into the service. So, and the other thing that I've done over the years, both personally and then again through the Restaurant Engine strategy, was a lot of guest articles. So over time,
you posting on other sites or other sites posting on your blog?
Me posting on other sites. Oh. And so I've done that personally when I'm promoting stuff on my personal blog. But on Restaurant Engine, I still secured guest article opportunities. But I had my writing team write those articles, kind of ghost writing as me. And over time, I've been able to build up better and better guest blog placements. So, it started out with kind of smaller web design blogs. And then I kind of, leveraged those to eventually start publishing on sites like Mashable, Smashing Magazine, Michael Hyatt. And then, after a while, that stuff starts to snowball. And earlier this year, I was a guest on Pat Flynn's podcast, and I've been a guest on other podcasts and things. So
Vic Dorfman's podcast.
And now, my big break here with Vic Dorfman.
I just want to point out too that I'm sure you know Dan Norris and the WP Curve guys, and yep. I recently did a guest post on their site, and what really struck me, and what the next question I kind of want to get into, is how freaking systematized and process-sized that whole aspect, and I'm sure every other aspect of their business is. They had guidelines for images, guidelines for this. It took me a long time to write that post, and then on top of all the editing and back and forth with the content manager, it was the hardest post I've ever written, and the result was an amazing post.
Totally. Yeah, what Dan and his team have done on WP Curve is awesome. They really have their systems totally dialed in, and you have to with a productized service business like that.
So let's get into that. Can you talk about kind of the role that systems and processes play in your business, and kind of how you structure how you outsource yourself out of your own business whenever possible? Obviously, you like the blogging, but you don't want to do it for Restaurant Engine. And when you sold it, I imagine that was a big selling point too for the owners. Here's this ready-made content marketing strategy. All you got to do is plug your people in, or my people, and it's just going to keep generating leads and traffic for you.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with it. At the time that I sold Restaurant Engine, after 4 years of working on it, by that point I was basically spending 3 hours per month managing the day-to-day processes.
That's awesome.
So really not spending much time at all. I'd spend more if I was starting a new marketing initiative or working on something new, but in terms of so basically a couple of support tickets might get escalated to me, or a couple of sales leads might get escalated to me, but for the most part, I was pretty hands off, and it took 4 years for me to get to that point. So, or in the first year, I was doing everything from all the customer support, all of the manual onboarding setups, which it is a productized service. So we're manually setting up every restaurant's website, which we have it pretty streamlined and templates. There are templates and things which help the team do it much faster. But I was the one doing all that in the beginning. I was doing all the sales, a lot of phone sales every single day.
And were you documenting it as you were going along?
Yeah, exactly. So I was documenting things as I was going along, and then just piece by piece, I removed myself from certain aspects of the business. Like first, I removed myself from sending our weekly email newsletter and doing our weekly social media posts. And then I also hired the writers pretty early on, so I kind of removed myself from that. Then I hired someone to take over customer support, and then a little bit later, I hired a salesperson to replace me from doing all of the sales consultations. And that's so all those little pieces, I just like step by step, I'd document a process. I'd put somebody on the team, or I'd hire someone new to come in and take over that role. And then of course, there are always kinks along the way. Like once you put someone in place to begin with, over time, they're going to have a bunch of questions, and you have to refine the process and figure out, okay, where are things getting hung up. But I kind of ironed out all of those little kinks, and by the time I left it was a kind of a well-oiled machine.
Man, I envy you. I envy you because you've already gotten over the hump with all of the documentation, but I'm in that stage now where I'm starting to really document everything, and it's just so much stuff. But I'm sure that there's like, once you see that light at the end of the tunnel, you'll be like, oh, I can get myself out of here.
It's a really tedious process, and like in my new business, Audience Ops, this is kind of my second time around doing this, so I'm moving much, much faster through this process. Like we're only 5 months into this business, and now I'm almost completely removed from the service side. Like I'm not writing the blog posts for our clients. That whole production line is running with the team, and they've got a whole system in place and processes and tools and things that they use. I'm still very much involved in refining our systems and processes, and I do all the sales and marketing right now for Audience Ops. But yeah, it is a very tedious process, and basically my approach is I always want to be working on like whatever I'm working on today or this week. I want to make sure that I'm working on it, but I'm designing it in such a way to keep producing, to keep running after I stop working on it.
I see.
So for example, like with our blog on Audience Ops, we have our own blog now, where we're publishing about content marketing and how to get a return on investment from it and things. And I wrote some of the initial articles for that, but pretty quickly I brought the team into that process so that the blog would keep publishing without me, because I'm going to start focusing on the next piece of building this business.
And generally, content marketing is seen as kind of a nebulous investment in terms of lead generation and marketing. How do you sort of measure return on investment? How can you, with your service, scale this kind of thing and keep clients from sort of coloring outside of the lines? Some people, I know with my MemberFix service, I haven't been able to scale it because people request such a wide variety of things. How do you sort of keep your clients in the box without making them feel like they're not getting their money's worth? Kind of all of the classic questions of scaling in a service like this.
It started out with a very focused value proposition. We publish and promote blog posts on your blog, and it's all done for you. And that's a very specific thing that we're doing. And I was already aware of this pain point from many people. I was already talking about how we've done content marketing in Restaurant Engine, And I would get a lot of people coming up to me saying, I wish I had that kind of system in my business. And that's eventually what led me into starting Audience Ops. Was I knew that it's something that I've done in my own business, and I see others talking about it as a very specific pain point. So it was a good match to launch that specific service. But yeah, I mean, we've had some requests from clients, to do things that are a little bit different from what our standard process is. And, typically I try to treat those requests the same way that any other software product would treat feature requests. So if they're making a request that I think would genuinely improve the service and something that I could roll out to all of our clients, then I'll talk to the client about it, and then I'll work on a process, and I'll work it out with the team, and probably within about a month or so, we can start to roll that into our manual done for you process. If it's something that really falls in line with the value proposition. I mean, for example, a couple of months ago, one of our clients told us that, they've had pretty good success with going on Quora and answering questions, and then linking to blog posts that are in line with those questions. But they don't want to do it themselves in-house. And since we're doing their blogging, they would love to have us write answers to Quora questions for them. And so I could have done that for just them and maybe charged them a little bit extra and made some special procedure for my team to use just for that one client. But I mean, that's something that would benefit all of our clients. So now we've rolled that out to everyone. So that's like a standard part of our promotion process that we do for every client. And like once an article passes the publish date, it moves into our Quora promotion process. That's just something in the line of things that we do. But I mean, there have been other things where, we can't necessarily scale it and we can't necessarily put it into our process. For example, like influencer outreach. That's something that we wouldn't be the most effective team to do that for each individual client. There are other consultants out there who offer that as a service, but we focus on the content creation piece, and we automate some pieces of the content promotion, like going on Quora and writing the email newsletter. And we also syndicate things to Medium and LinkedIn, because these are things that can have like standard repeatable processes that we do. So
okay, so you keep talking about your team, and can you I don't know about you, I've had a lot of trouble finding good people. I mean, good help is hard to find. That's like a cliche expression for a reason, I think. How did you find your team? How do you find stars? How do you vet them? What's your sort of 3-point checklist, if you would?
Yeah, it's a good question because it is very hard. What's hard about it is that there are so many people out there who are willing and ready to work. Like, you could easily go on Upwork or any of these other sites or any specific job boards and find hundreds and hundreds of applicants. The hard part is as you said, like weeding them out and getting the stars to come into your team and really fit into your process and culture. I guess there are a few things that I look for, and I think it's also like a never-ending learning process. Even in this new business, I've got a really great team in place. We're about 8 people now. But even as I start adding more and more people into the team, I start to see who are like the most ideal skill sets and personalities to bring in, and something to look. Not that there are any issues with that with my current team or anything, but you just learn more about these little nuances as you go.
And where are your guys and gals based?
Yeah, so we have 5 writers, and they're all based around different parts of the U.S. And 2 of those writers kind of double as project managers with us as well. We have 2 assistants who are based in the Philippines, and they handle a lot of the technical setup tasks. We have 1 graphic designer in Buenos Aires, and he creates a custom graphic for every article that we do.
Yes.
And on the content upgrades plugin, I'm working with a developer in the Ukraine on that.
Yes. I'm Ukrainian, so score one.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. But yeah, I mean, like the things that I look for, I always look for communication above everything else, even above skill level and talent. I'm looking for someone who communicates really, really effectively, and asks a lot of questions. That's a big plus in my book. And when I'm asking them questions, or if I ask multiple questions, they make a point of responding to every little detail of what I asked. And you'd be surprised at how many people kind of, brush over certain questions, or don't give you a full answer, or don't, or maybe have trouble with a certain task and don't care to ask how to get it right.
I would not be surprised about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and I think that communication skill a long way, because even if they're not the most talented person, and I also happen to find really talented people too, which is a bonus, but even if their skill sets, or they don't know our processes inside and out from day one, which really nobody would know from day one, having that communication skill is going to help them become successful in the team very quickly. And I fully expect everyone to have a lot of questions and to make a bunch of mistakes in their first couple of weeks.
Yep.
But it becomes an issue if they're making the same mistake 2, 3, 4 times.
Yes.
And I find that good communicators just don't run into that at all. So that's one thing, and I think that's also really important with working as a remote team. And that this is something that, I mean, I've been working with remote teammates for years, but it's something that I still try to improve, having like a team culture, because we are working together every single day.
What does that look like when you say team culture? How do you foster that and get people to on board? Because a lot of it, I don't know if you've ever worked at like a corporate job, but the team culture thing is kind of office spacey sometimes. How do you avoid that and make it genuine and people like actually get excited, like, oh, I actually really like working at Audience Ops. It's really kicks ass. Yeah,
it is tough being a remote team. I mean, we use Slack just like almost every other remote team out there, and I guess we have some aspects of our culture in Slack. I mean, we're talking about work and product and like process updates and questions and things, but there are plenty of baby pictures and animated GIFs that get posted through there as well, and talking about like life updates in there. So and the other thing that I've learned pretty quickly with Audience Ops is when you hire a team of writers and you put them all in a chat room, they are going to be pretty chatty. But
that's a click to tweet right there.
Yeah, exactly. What I'd like to do at some point soon is organize some kind of group, like a team meetup, and
like a live one.
Everybody. Yeah, I'd like to get to that point. I mean, we're still a very new company, only 5 months into it, but probably not going to happen this year, but maybe sometime next year, and maybe make it like a annual thing, or 2 times a year we'd all kind of get together in one city and hang out for a week and kind of bond that way.
I want to echo that too, because I've met some people. Actually, it was this time last year that I was at DCBKK, and I met some really, really successful productized services people. And kind of a recurring theme that I heard was all of these guys were running remote, and gals were running remote teams, and they said that, I asked them, how do you kind of keep your teams to gel and get everybody on board? And they're like, a lot of them are in the Philippines. So like, well, we fly out to the Philippines, we bring everybody to like a resort, and we just go diving for a week and just get drunk and silly, and everybody just gets cool with one another, and then we just do that like twice a year.
Yeah,
or once a year.
I mean, it's awesome. And the tricky thing for us is that most of our team is in the U.S. and some are, and we're literally in 4 different continents now. With the one guy in South America and one guy in Europe and 2 in Philippines, 5 of us in the U.S. So it's tricky, but yeah, I mean, I'd love to get to that point where we're all kind of hanging out in person. But it still comes back to like the communication thing, and we'll have like Google Hangouts from time to time, and I send kind of video messages to the team sometimes, and yeah, we're all just kind of like tuned in on Slack as well.
Before you kind of start delegating things to your team, I imagine that you do quite a bit of automation with Zapier and various kinds of tools. Can you talk about the automation aspect, and also maybe just in general what tools you use to run your business that are vital, and apps?
Yeah, sure. So, about automation, we do have some automation things in place, but I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. I'd be careful about rushing too fast into automating every little detail, because a lot of that automation stuff can simply be handled with a process that you give to a team member, and it's their job to do this on a weekly basis or do this on a monthly basis. For example, like we every week we send an email to all of our clients with the link of their next article that we're going to publish for them so that they can preview it. And that's just a task that our project manager does every Monday, and she just does it manually and pastes in the link. And we have like a template email that she does, and she sends it off to all of our clients. And like that's something we could probably technically automate somehow, but she'll write like a little personal note and make sure that everything is in place and it works pretty well. But like another thing that we do, okay, so like the main tools that we use are Slack. We use Trello very heavily. So the Trello is what we use to manage our production line for all the articles, because every single week we're producing quite a few blog articles, and we have to use Trello to kind of move them along in the production line. And there's 3 or 4 different team members who are touching every article, from the project manager to the writer, and then it goes to another copy editor, and then it goes to the designer to add the image, and the assistant to set it up in WordPress. So we use Trello to manage all steps in that process. And then the other piece that we use is Help Scout for customer service. And it's not like we have a product with hundreds or thousands of customers so we don't really use Help Scout the way most companies use Help Scout. We just use it so that our project managers, and sometimes me, we can all use a single email address to communicate with our clients.
Just looks more professional, right?
Yeah, so that they can just kind of all they have to know is like they can email with hello@audienceapps.com, and most of the time they're going to communicate with Kat, our project manager, but sometimes I hop into that conversation, or sometimes somebody else does. So that makes it really easy. In terms of automation, like just 2 little things, 2 little things that I've set up recently. I use If This Then That, which is pretty similar to Zapier, where you can kind of like connect 2 different services together. And so what I do is, one of the other things that Kat does is she sends a monthly report to all of our clients, and those monthly reports are generated manually between the assistants and Kat. They're pulling stats from their Google Analytics and email accounts and things, and we have a report that we send every month. And so I have an automated reminder to the team that goes out on the first of every month. It says, hey guys, time to run the monthly reports and send them out to our clients. And then once they get that reminder, which comes through in Slack, they go ahead and follow our procedure for generating our monthly reports. And that reminder is triggered automatically using If This Then That. So it just says like every first of the month, write this automated message and tag these people and send that into Slack.
I'm curious about the content of the report, because my next question was going to be, this isn't even actually on the list of questions, but I'm just kind of curious how your clients can justify paying you month after month. Like, how do you communicate, or how do they perceive the ROI of paying for content marketing on a recurring basis? Like, it's not always if this then that. It's not always linear in terms of like you produce content, they get richer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, sure. So I think there are two things. One is the the stats over time. I mean, we're showing them, like, one of our main goals is that we're going to help you grow your email list. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we focus very heavily on, and we create those content upgrades, and we create email lead magnets and things. And so one of the things that we're reporting on in every monthly report is how many email subscribers have we added to your list this month, and what is your email open rate, and what is your email click-through rate. Those are stats that matter very much to us as someone managing their email newsletter. And then, of course, the other stats are traffic that they look at. So we're showing, over time, especially after you've been committed to a blogging schedule for many months, you're just naturally going to see organic traffic go up. And that's not to say that we necessarily completely focus on just optimizing for SEO keywords and things. Like, we're mainly focused on writing stuff that's really going to resonate with your target customer. But we find that SEO and organic traffic comes as like a byproduct of publishing on a regular basis. And so, we're reporting on those kind of stats, and we also do some we set up some email marketing automation, which should direct a lot of those new people into their audience. That kind of directs them towards their product or their service and generates more leads for their business. So they're going to see results in that way. But then the other main way that they see results is the fact that the founder or their internal team are freed up to work on other things, and they don't have to be doing that blogging treadmill that a lot of early founders are doing themselves. Yep. Because we work with clients who, like, when they come to us, they're already on board with the idea of doing content marketing. Like, they're online businesses. They're running their businesses online. They know that having a strong content presence and educating customers, they know how important that is. But they also know how time-consuming it is, not only for them to write the articles, but then all the other pieces of managing that process, from, setting up the email newsletter and getting that queued up, and social media posts, and then promoting on Quora.
For sure. It's a whole to-do.
And some companies, hire full-time employees to just be their in-house content marketing manager. But there are a lot of companies who can't afford that or haven't reached that level, and they see audience ops as a pretty good alternative to hiring somebody in-house to handle it all. So I think that's the other side of the value proposition that they see.
I think you picked a really cool service because, from my perspective as a vendor, let's say if I were creating your service from scratch, there's a pretty high barrier to entry in terms of like all of the T's you have to cross and I's you have to dot, and all the processes you have to create, and these reports, they have to sort of communicate the value to the client month after month. I mean, it sounds like you probably had quite a lot of this done before you launched. Like, you must have planned and worked on this for quite a while. Yeah?
It definitely, actually, no. It actually came together pretty quickly, and there are definitely a lot of pieces in the stuff that came together over time, like not from day one. Mm-hmm. But the initial launch of Audience Ops happened over like a 2-week period. Basically, all I really did was set up a pretty easy website. I mean, I have a website design background, so I kind of just got a theme, and I wrote up some copy and I put it up on the website. That was pretty quick, and then I forgot what I did. I think I either sent an email to my list or I announced it on the podcast. And within the first month, I had a handful of paying clients, mm-hmm. and through serving those first clients in that very first month, I started documenting the processes as we got up to each step. So I was like documenting them and building out these pieces in real time with paying clients, and that's kind of that's why I love Productized Services so much, is that you can literally launch it very, very quickly to paying clients, and let that revenue kind of sustain you as you the various pieces within the business. But yeah, like when we sent the very first monthly report, I had to create that monthly report for the first time. When we first had to connect to a client's WordPress blog and their email marketing tool, I had to set up some kind of system for us to get those login accesses, so that's taken a while to work out those little kinks. But yeah, I mean, over time, just kind of we keep refining the template, the process.
Okay, well, I would be remiss not to sort of touch on the topic of this show. And actually, the last podcast I did, I was having so much fun with my guest that we didn't even talk about membership sites or recurring revenue. But so obviously this show is about recurring revenue and membership sites, and productized services sort of lend themselves to recurring revenue. Although some people do kind of do one-off sales and everything. Can you sort of talk about the role or this kind of business model, why you chose it, why you like it, why you don't like it maybe as well?
Yeah, I love productized services. I teach a whole course on it. I give a lot of talks about productized services. What I like about it is, to me, it's not necessarily lowers the barrier to entry. I mean, I guess it does. For people who are trying to make that leap from being a freelancer or a consultant to owning a product business, something that can scale, I see a productized service as the easiest bridge
for sure
to make that connection, rather than building out a software, SaaS, a software as a service business, or even spending a lot of time building an info product. Technically, it's very easy to do that, but it takes a lot of time, and it has to be really good in order for it to do well. A productized and often an info product requires some kind of audience in place to launch it to, whereas, and same thing with a software product, but with a productized service, I mean, I know guys who literally just sent 50 cold emails to 50 ideal prospects. And out of 50 cold emails, like 3 of them become their first paying clients, and that's the start, and that's monthly recurring revenue that they can then leverage to, do it again.
I just want to add to that too, that if you're a freelancer now, and this is what my guest post was about on WP Curve, if you're a freelancer now and you're trading your time for money, if you can switch over to like a monthly retainer model with your clients, and they value you, like you specifically, they want to work with you, maybe they're just comfortable, maybe you're super competent, they will pay you, that monthly retainer, even though it's less convenient for them, just to have access to you and to be able to work with you, if that's the choice that you present to them. And it takes so much stress off of your shoulders when, you wake up one day, it's like, oh, here's $300 from so-and-so. Oh, here's another 300 from so-and-so. And you can sort of start working on the business of business more and less on the business of, membership sites or content marketing or whatever industry you're in. I mean, it's a game changer,
Yeah. That's what it's all about, is focusing on your business, not working in your business, right? And
working the system.
Totally. Yeah. And but back to your point about, if you're already working with clients and if you want to get them on a retainer, or get them bought into a productized service version of what you do, like I just gave a talk last month at MicroConf Europe about this, that offering a productized service is actually easier for clients to buy
for sure.
than for them to hire you by the hour. And I see this again and again, because from the client's perspective, they have some kind of problem in their business. Maybe they need a website done, or maybe they need a marketing funnel created, or they need something done. What are their options? They could hire a consultant and by the hour, and when they do that, they have to figure out, okay, what's the hourly rate? How many hours is this going to take? What's even involved? We don't know what's involved. What kind of surprises am I in for? Is this person even reliable? There are all these question marks that make it really risky. And then their other alternative is to, buy some software and try to do it in-house and figure it out themselves. And of course, many busy business people don't want to deal with stuff if it's not their area of expertise. So when you're offering a specific productized service that says, hey, we create your marketing funnel, or we give you, done for you WordPress customer support on a monthly basis for a set fee, the way WP Curve does, that makes it so much easier for the client to say, yes, that's the problem that I have. I want to buy that product.
Yep.
It's just like buying something on Amazon. It's like you've identified a need, and I have that need, and you're setting the expectation. That's exactly what I want as a client.
Yeah. Not only that, but it forces you as the vendor to really focus your marketing a little bit. Because I suppose you can email people and say like, hey, I have this productized service, but in all likelihood, you will have a landing page with some testimonials, and it'll kind of force you to think about, well, what am I offering? Put it together in a professional looking way, and then when people inquire, you can just point them to that resource. So you're making that redundant as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that gets back to a key thing, and that's focus. The more that you can focus in on solving one problem for one particular customer, the more you establish your brand as like the go-to solution or the go-to resource if you have that problem, right? I mean, when I was working on Restaurant Engine, all we did was design websites for restaurants. So if you're a restaurant owner and you come to Restaurant Engine and you see everything that we have on the page, you see testimonials from other restaurant owners, you see examples of restaurant websites, there's no question in your mind that we can't do the job of designing a restaurant website. But if you're a consultant and you do what I used to do years ago, which was design websites for anyone and everyone,
yeah,
and all sorts of different organizations, there's always going to be a question. It's like, okay, I see that you're talented, I see you have these skills, but you've never really built something quite like this for someone quite like me. And there's always that question of, I don't know if you can deliver. So
that's interesting.
Yeah,
so it kind of refines the client fit a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the more that you can focus in on who you're selling to and have a really good understanding of who your target customer is, that actually enables you to market it like a product.
Yeah.
Because without that, you can't market it. Like I used to be a freelance web designer, and my website years ago used to say something like, I design websites and I like using WordPress, work with me. There's no way that I can go out and proactively go find new clients for that business. I had to rely only on referrals.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who I'm going after. But if I'm targeting a very specific customer, then I can take actions that will get me in front of that group of customers more often and get my offer, my solution in front of them.
You just got me wondering, I don't know why this came into my head. I wonder if there's like some designer out there who's just like, I'm the WordPress porn website designer guy. And that's like his thing. I bet there is.
I bet there is, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to Google that later.
It's a big industry.
That's true. It's a huge industry, isn't it? Okay, so we've kind of touched on all the business stuff, and as we're winding to the end of the interview, I want to kind of just talk about kind of like your not your personal life, but your kind of non-work persona. I mean, does fitness, does exercise play a huge role in your life? How do you rejuvenate? How do you come back to your business with renewed vigor?
Well, I wish fitness was a bigger part of my life. I am trying to make it more. But one thing that I'm doing right now is my family and I are traveling, like doing long-term travel,
Yes.
doing kind of like the digital nomad kind of thing. And so currently I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, which is a new place for me. I mean, I grew up near New York, and my wife and I have been living in Connecticut for the last 5 years. But we recently, so 2 months ago, we just sold our place, put a bunch of our stuff in storage, packed up a car, got our 1-year-old daughter, got my 100-pound black lab dog, and put them all in the car. And now we're going from city to city, kind of living in different places for about 2 months at a time.
Just like Airbnb-ing it?
Yeah, exactly. So we're here in Asheville for the next 2 months. And I mean, one of my goals during this, we're going to be doing this for the next year or two. And one of my long-term goals over this time is to actually reduce the number of hours that I'm working. Because when I'm kind of stuck in one place for years on end, I kind of, I have a social life and things, but I kind of, I still fell into that routine of, Monday through Friday, roughly 9 to 5 or 6 p.m. I'm working.
Yep.
and just kind of cranking away at my work. And I love what I do. I love working on the business and things, but one of my goals over this long-term trip here is to try to reduce the number of hours and try to just do more things outside of work. So, for example, one thing that I'm doing now is I'm basically doing all of my work in the morning hours up until lunchtime, and then the afternoons I'm basically done. I mean, I might have a call here and there in the afternoons, but yesterday we went hiking in the mountains out here in Asheville.
I just want to interject real quick and say that I hitchhiked through Asheville this years ago.
Oh, really?
It is just one of the most gorgeous places I've ever been.
It really is. It's awesome here. And Asheville as a little city, big town, little city, I don't know, but it's tons of great food and restaurants and things, and the mountains. We're living in a house, up in the mountains, and it's.
I can hear the crow.
It is. Yeah, you hear that? It's there. I mean, there are like bears and crazy animals around here, but it's a lot of fun. So we're just trying to make the most of exploring new places, and so after this, we're gonna make a couple short stops, and then we'll live in Austin, Texas, for about 2 months. Which I've never been to Austin, so I'm looking forward to that. After that, we're heading to Colorado. We'll be there for a few months, and then out to the West Coast, up to San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, and then the plan is to, of course, it's all open-ended. Who knows what's going to happen, but the plan is to go overseas and go to Asia and spend some time out there. So just really excited to kind of not necessarily have a home base for a little while. And I mean, I've already been working from anywhere anyway. All my clients and all my teammates are remote, so it doesn't really matter where I'm working. My wife recently stopped working, so she's not tied down to one location anymore, and our daughter is still too young for school, so we kind of have this good window here for the next couple of years to do some adventure.
That's exciting. It's like a new chapter in your life.
Yeah, totally.
And your daughter, I mean, she probably won't really remember it, but it'll be instilled in her subconscious, all of these kinds of sights and sounds that,
Yeah.
Most people never really go anywhere. Most people kind of visit one or two places, but most
yeah, exactly. I mean, she's a year and a half now, so she'll be, it is a little young for, she won't really remember much, but of course we'll have pictures and videos and things, but it is just a lot of fun exploring with her, and doing things like that. So we used to do the typical take a vacation twice a year for a week at a time, and it's fun, but it's
anticlimactic, isn't it?
Yeah, and I like being in a new place for a long period of time and not feeling like the pressure of okay, every day we're rush. We got to see all these sites, and we got to do all these things, and then we got to fly home. And now it's we just live. We cook our meals just like we used to at home, but we're doing it in a new place for a little while. So
very cool. I'm a little jealous of that, actually. Got me feeling nostalgic.
Well, you're out there. You're out in Asia, so you're in a cool place.
Well, the grass is always greener, isn't it?
Yeah.
We always want the other thing, what we can't have. The girl who shunned us, and you know how it goes. Anyway, well, I guess the last question I want to ask you is, or not even a question, but what kind of general piece of advice or life/business wisdom do you want to leave our audience with? You're number one. You're number one at the moment.
I think a friend of mine, Brecht Palumbo, who's on the Bootstrapped with Kids podcast. He's been talking recently about this idea of living intentionally, and I guess I kind of want to echo that sentiment, which is, you've got to be doing what you love in terms of what you're working on every day. And I look at like this trip that I'm on right now as like, obviously I pay myself from the business, but a big part of my payoff from this business is having this freedom to go travel and work on my own schedule and things like that. And if you're not in a place where you're enjoying what you do, or you're not getting the full benefit or payoff from what you do, and you don't see a good trajectory for the next couple of years of where you're headed, there are so many actions you can take to change that, and you have to kind of intentionally take certain steps to get there. And so that would be the thing, and you can even like focus that down into your business that you're working on right now. I mean, if there's something that's not quite working, try a different business model. Try a new strategy. Like you've got to keep changing and evolving. Don't try to stay in the same routine.
Awesome. Brian, where can people find you online?
Probably the best way is on my personal website, casjam.com, CASJAM. On there, I've got a free course about productized services, and that's right on the homepage. You can check that out, and that'll get you onto my email newsletter, and I send weekly-ish emails about all this kind of stuff that we've been talking about. And my company that I'm working on is called Audience Ops. That's audienceops.com. And I'm also CastJam on Twitter. So
cool. And I'll put all those links in the show notes.
Very cool.
Awesome having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Vic.
Thanks.
Wasn't that scrumptious? Thanks for listening to the Membership Site Success Podcast with membership site expert Vic Dorfman. For oodles of free tips, tricks, and tutorials on crushing it with recurring revenue, go to www.vicdorfman.com. It's what all the cool kids do, and you do want to be cool, don't you? See you next time.